The warning alarm screamed through the bridge of the Vryn exploration vessel Silverwing. Captain Thelrix's 4 eyes widened as she watched her navigation display flash red. They had crossed a boundary they should never have touched. "By the stars," her navigator whispered. "Captain, we're in the Sol system." Thelrix felt her blood turn cold. Every spacefaring species knew about Sol. Earth system. The dead zone. 300 years ago, humanity had simply vanished from galactic affairs. No explanation. No goodbye. They just stopped responding to messages. Stopped trading, stopped everything. The Galactic Concord had sent investigation teams at first, but every ship that entered the system disappeared without a trace. After 50 years, they declared Sol off limits and tried to forget about the strange, aggressive species that once lived there. "Get us out of here," Thelrix ordered. "Maximum speed." "Can't, Captain," her engineer reported. "The pirates damaged our jump drive. We need at least an hour for repairs." Behind them, 3 pirate vessels closed in fast. They had been chasing the Silverwing for 2 days, ever since Thelrix's crew discovered their hidden base. The pirates didn't care about ancient warnings or forbidden zones. They only cared about the valuable survey data stored in the Silverwing's computers. "They're charging weapons," the tactical officer announced. Thelrix made a decision. "Take us deeper into the system. Maybe the pirates will be too afraid to follow." The Silverwing dove toward the inner planets. But the pirates, desperate and greedy, followed without hesitation. Their leader's voice crackled over the communications channel. "Surrender your data, Vryn, and we'll let you live. Keep running and we'll take it from your corpses." Thelrix ignored them, her eyes fixed on the scanner display. Something was wrong. The system shouldn't be this empty. Where were the defense stations? Where were the warnings? Where was anything? Then her science officer gasped. "Captain, I'm detecting something near Earth. It's massive." On the screen, a structure materialized. It had been invisible moments before, hidden by technology far beyond anything the Concord possessed. The object was enormous, easily the size of a small city. It hung in orbit around the blue-green planet like a silent sentinel. "What is that?" Thelrix breathed. The structure came alive. Lights flickered across its surface in patterns that seemed almost organic. Then a voice filled every speaker on the ship. It spoke in perfect galactic standard, clear and emotionless. "Attention, unidentified vessels. You have entered restricted space. This is your only warning. Exit the Sol system immediately or defensive measures will be initiated." The pirate leader laughed. "Defensive measures? That thing's been dead for 3 centuries. It's probably just an automated recording." The largest pirate ship fired a missile at the structure. It was a powerful weapon, capable of destroying a military cruiser. The missile streaked through space, closing the distance in seconds. The structure didn't move. It didn't need to. A beam of pure white light shot from its surface and touched the missile. There was no explosion. The missile simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, the next moment there was nothing but empty space. What just happened? The pirate leader's voice had lost its confidence. "Analysis complete," Thelrix's science officer reported, her voice shaking. "That weapon converted the missile's matter directly into energy. The technology required to do that shouldn't exist." The structure spoke again. "Second warning. Hostile action detected. You have 60 seconds to begin your exit trajectory." The pirates fired again, all 3 ships unleashing their full arsenal. Missiles, plasma bolts, and kinetic rounds filled the space between them and the structure. The white beams lanced out again, each one perfectly precise. Every single weapon vanished before reaching its target. 45 seconds, the structure announced. "Run!" The pirate leader screamed. His ships tried to turn away, but they had come too close. 30 seconds. Thelrix watched in horror as more structures appeared throughout the system. They had been there all along, invisible and waiting. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. 15 seconds. Final warning. The pirate ships desperately tried to engage their jump drives. One of them succeeded, vanishing in a flash of light. The other 2 weren't fast enough. Warning period expired. Eliminating hostile vessels. The white beams touched the 2 remaining pirate ships. Unlike the missiles, the ships didn't vanish instantly. Instead, they began to glow, brighter and brighter until they shone like small stars. Then they were gone, converted to pure energy, leaving nothing behind. The structure turned its attention to the Silverwing. Thelrix felt every member of her crew hold their breath. "Vryn, vessel Silverwing. Analysis indicates you did not initiate hostile action. You have 10 minutes to exit the system." If you require assistance with repairs, it will be provided. If you refuse to leave, you will be destroyed. Respond. Thelrix's hands trembled as she activated the communication system. This is Captain Thelrix. We didn't mean to enter your space. Our jump drive was damaged. We accept your offer of assistance. Understood. Repair drones dispatched. Do not deviate from your current position. Small machines emerged from the massive structure, moving with impossible speed toward the Silver Wing. They attached to the damaged sections of the ship and began working with efficiency that made Thelrix's engineer weep with envy. Captain, her science officer said quietly, I'm scanning the third planet, Earth. It's not dead. I'm reading dense forests, clean oceans, and massive animal populations. It's a paradise down there. But no cities? No civilizations? None, just nature. The repairs completed in 7 minutes. The drones detached and returned to their origin point. Vrin vessel Silverwing. Repairs complete. You will now exit the system. A course has been plotted to your navigation computer. Follow it exactly. Any deviation will result in immediate termination. You will not return to this system. You will report what you witnessed here to your galactic Concord. Tell them that Earth remains under protection. Tell them to stay away. We understand, Thelrix replied. Thank you for sparing us. There was a pause as if the structure was considering something. Message for the galactic Concord. Humanity has not forgotten. Humanity is watching. Humanity does not wish to be disturbed. This is the first and final warning. The Silver Wing jumped away, following the provided course exactly. Thelrix and her crew sat in stunned silence for several minutes after entering safe space. Captain, her tactical officer finally spoke. If they have structures like that throughout the system, and if they've had them for 300 years or more, then humanity was never the primitive species we thought they were, Thelrix finished. They were far beyond us. Maybe they still are. What do we do? Thelrix thought about those massive structures, silent and deadly. She thought about weapons that turned matter into energy. She thought about the emotionless voice that had shown mercy to her crew, but none to those who attacked. We report everything to the Concord, she said, and we pray they're smart enough to listen. Deep in the Sol system, the structure designated Guardian 1 returned to its dormant state. But before it did, it sent a signal toward Earth, toward a hidden facility buried deep in a mountain. The signal was simple, just 3 words. They know we're here. In Cheyenne Mountain, ancient computers flickered to life. Emergency protocols activated for the first time in 287 years. Cryopods began their warming sequences. The base's artificial intelligence reviewed the situation and calculated probabilities. The galaxy had forgotten about humanity. Now they were remembering, and that changed everything. A message transmitted across the planet's secure network, reaching every hidden facility, every dormant Guardian platform, every automated defense system. External threat assessment, active. Waking primary defense coordinator. All systems stand by for human authority. On Earth, in the silence of a tomb that had kept its vigil for nearly 3 centuries, Commander Sarah Chen's eyes opened for the first time in 17 years. She took a breath, feeling the familiar ache of revival spreading through her body. Status report, she whispered, her voice rough from disuse. The AI responded immediately. Welcome back, Commander. We have visitors. They know we're here, awaiting your orders. Sarah closed her eyes for a moment, gathering her strength. She had hoped to sleep longer. She had hoped the galaxy would leave Earth alone forever, but hope was a luxury Guardians couldn't afford. Show me everything, she said. The revival process always hurt. Sarah Chen had gone through it 47 times now, and it never got easier. Her muscles screamed as she forced herself to sit up in the cryopod. Her head pounded. Her mouth tasted like metal and old dreams. How long this time? She asked the AI. 17 years, 4 months, and 12 days since your last revival, Commander. 17 years. Sarah did the math in her head. That made it 287 years since humanity had ascended. 287 years since she had chosen to stay behind. She swung her legs over the side of the pod, waiting for the feeling to return to her feet. The medical bay around her was exactly as she remembered it. Clean, sterile, empty. It had been built to house a crew of 200, now it only served 1. Give me the summary, she said, reaching for the jumpsuit that lay folded nearby. The AI projected information directly into her neural implant. Sarah processed it as she dressed, her enhanced mind sorting through data at superhuman speed. The Vrin ship. The pirates. Guardian 1's defensive response. The message sent to the Galactic Concord. They think we're extinct, Sarah said. It wasn't a question. Affirmative. Galactic records list humanity as presumed extinct or evolved beyond contact. They remember us as aggressive, but technologically inferior. Sarah almost laughed. Inferior, if they only knew. But that was the point, wasn't it? Humanity had left the galaxy alone precisely because they had become too superior, too powerful, too dangerous. She walked through the empty corridors of Cheyenne Mountain Complex, her footsteps echoing off walls that hadn't heard human voices in nearly 3 centuries. The facility was one of 12 primary command centers scattered across Earth, all maintained by automated systems, all waiting for her to wake and give them purpose. In the command center, holographic displays flickered to life at her approach. She stood in the middle of the room, surrounded by information. Earth status, the Guardian platforms, the automated defense fleet. Every weapon, every sensor, every piece of technology humanity had left behind. Show me Earth, she commanded. The largest display showed her home planet from orbit. It was beautiful. More beautiful than it had been in centuries. Without humanity's cities and industries, nature had reclaimed everything. The Amazon rainforest had doubled in size. The oceans teemed with whales and fish. Wolves ran through the ruins of New York. Tigers prowled through what had once been Tokyo. Sarah felt the familiar ache in her chest. This was why she stayed. This was what she protected. Earth itself. Not humanity's buildings or roads or monuments. Just the planet. The birthplace. The garden they had nearly destroyed before they learned wisdom. Guardian status report, she ordered. All 47 Guardian platforms operational. Energy reserves at 97%. No degradation in systems. Defensive fleet. 1,000 automated vessels ready for deployment. Weapon systems all active. Stealth systems, functioning at optimal levels. 47 Guardians. Each one the size of a city. Each one capable of destroying entire fleets. Each one invisible to any scanning technology the current galaxy possessed. Humanity had built them during the last war, the one that had nearly ended everything. They had been insurance, protection against extinction. Now they were museum pieces. Relics of a violent past. Sarah was their caretaker, the last physical human left to remember what they represented. Show me the conquered fleet movements, she said. The display changed, showing her the space beyond Sol system. The AI highlighted several large groups of ships moving in various directions. One group caught her attention. It was heading toward Sol. 200 warships, according to the analysis. They're coming to investigate, Sarah said quietly. Probability 94%. Estimated arrival, 14 days, 7 hours. Sarah sat in the commander's chair, the same chair she had sat in 47 times before. Every time she woke, there was a new crisis. A probe getting too close, a mining expedition ignoring the warnings. Once, a scientific vessel had tried to land on Mars. Guardian 12 had removed it from existence before it touched the surface, but this was different. This was a fleet, an army. They weren't coming to explore. They were coming to challenge. Options, she said. The AI presented several scenarios. Destroy the fleet before it arrived. Allow them to enter and then destroy them. Negotiate. Hide and hope they left. Sarah reviewed each option, her enhanced mind calculating consequences and probabilities. 300 years ago, humanity would have chosen violence without hesitation. They would have seen the fleet as a threat and eliminated it. That's who they had been. That's why they had to leave. Open a secure channel to Guardian 1, she ordered. The connection established instantly. Guardian 1 was the oldest and most advanced of the platforms. It had been the prototype, the proof of concept that had led to all the others. It was also the closest thing Sarah had to a companion, though it was just an AI, not truly conscious. Commander Chen. Guardian 1's voice was calm and neutral. How may I assist? The fleet coming toward us. What do you assess as their primary motivation? Analysis indicates a combination of factors. Fear 68%. Curiosity 24%. Territorial concerns 8%. They're afraid of us, Sarah said. Correct. The demonstration of our defensive capabilities contradicted their understanding of human technology. They cannot reconcile their historical records with observed performance. This creates anxiety in their leadership. Sarah understood. The galaxy thought humanity was primitive. Now they had evidence that humanity possessed technology, centuries ahead of anything they had. From their perspective, it looked like humanity had been hiding their true capabilities all along. They would assume deception, conspiracy, threat. If we destroy that fleet, what happens? She asked. Short term, the immediate threat is eliminated. Medium term, the Galactic Concord declares Earth a hostile entity. Long term, probability of sustained warfare increases to 91%. And if we let them approach? Show them mercy? Unknown. Human mercy is not a value the current galactic civilizations associate with strength. They may interpret it as weakness or hesitation. Sarah closed her eyes. This was the impossible balance she had to maintain. Be strong enough to protect Earth. Be merciful enough to honor humanity's new path. Be wise enough to know the difference. I need to see the Ascended, she said quietly. The AI paused. Commander, you know they cannot answer. They exist beyond physical space. They cannot interfere. I know. But I can still ask. Sarah walked to a special chamber deep in the mountain. It was small and dark, with a single chair facing a communication device that had never received a response. She sat down and activated it anyway, sending her message out into dimensions she couldn't perceive, to the beings that humanity had become. This is Commander Sarah Chen, caretaker of Earth. Request guidance on the following situation. She explained everything. The Vrin ship, the approaching fleet, the impossible choices she faced. I've protected Earth for 287 years. I've woken 47 times. I've never let anyone threaten this planet, but I don't want to start a war. I don't want to kill thousands of beings just for being afraid. Tell me what to do. She waited in the silence. She always waited, even though she knew no answer would come. The Ascended had left physical space behind. They couldn't return. They couldn't speak. They could only exist in whatever higher state they had achieved. But Sarah asked anyway, because she was alone. Because the weight of protecting an entire planet pressed down on her every waking moment. Because sometimes even guardians needed to believe someone was listening. After an hour, she stood and returned to the command center. No answer had come. No answer ever came. AI, begin preparations for contact with the conquered fleet. I want full defensive positions but no aggressive posturing. Open a communication channel as soon as they enter the system. Acknowledged. What message will you transmit? Sarah thought about that. What do you say to people who fear you? How do you explain that you're not their enemy without sounding weak? How do you honor the memory of what humanity had been while showing what they had become? I'll tell them the truth, she finally said. That Earth is protected. That I'm its guardian. That I don't want to fight them. But I will if they force my hand. And if they don't believe you? Sarah looked at the displays showing her beautiful living planet. She thought about the forests and oceans. She thought about the animals that ran free. She thought about her duty. Then I'll show them what happens when you threaten something a human has sworn to protect. I'll show them why humanity left the galaxy, and I'll pray they're smart enough to learn from it. The AI processed this, preparing all systems. 14 days until contact. 14 days, Sarah repeated. She had that long to prepare. 14 days to get ready for the moment when the galaxy would finally remember why they had been so relieved when humanity disappeared. She hoped it would be enough. Supreme Admiral Korthal of the Zenthari stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Righteous Fury, and watched the Sol system grow larger on his displays. Behind him, 199 other warships maintained perfect formation. It was the largest military fleet the Galactic Concord had assembled in 50 years. Status report, he commanded. His tactical officer, a young Zenthari named Vektar, consulted his instruments. We're approaching the system boundary, Admiral. No contacts detected. No active scans, nothing. They're hiding, Korthal growled, waiting for us to come to them. He thought about the report from Captain Thelrix. The massive structure, the weapons that converted matter to energy, the emotionless voice that had destroyed 3 pirate ships without hesitation. The Concord Council had debated for days before deciding to send this fleet. Many had argued for caution, but Korthal had convinced them otherwise. We cannot let a single system dictate terms to the entire galaxy, he had told them. If these structures are truly as powerful as claimed, then we must assess the threat. If they are not, then we must reclaim Sol for the conquered. Either way, we cannot show fear. The Zenthari were warriors. They had led the conquered military for 2 centuries, ever since the Vrel-Kinneth Wars. Korthal himself had commanded fleets in 6 major conflicts. He was not a being who frightened easily, but he was also not a fool. He had studied the old records about humanity. They had been strange, unpredictable, violent in ways that seemed random to more civilized species. They fought wars over concepts like freedom and honor and pride. They refused to surrender even when defeat was certain. They had terrified the galaxy not because they were the strongest, but because they were the most willing to die. Then they had vanished. For 300 years, nothing. The galaxy had moved on. And now this. Crossing the boundary, Vectar announced. Korthal waited for alarms, for warnings, for something. Nothing happened. The fleet glided into the Sol system without incident. Maintain formation. Proceed to the 4th planet at sublight speed. Launch probe networks. Dozens of sophisticated scanning probes deployed from the fleet spreading throughout the system. They would provide detailed information about every rock, every piece of debris, every potential threat. Admiral, Vectar said hesitantly, I'm detecting something unusual near the 3rd planet. Show me. The display zoomed in on Earth's orbit. At first, Korthal saw nothing. Then the computer enhanced the image. Using every available sensor, a faint shimmer appeared in space like heat distortion. As the computer processed more data, a structure began to materialize on the screen. By the ancestor flames, Korthal whispered. The thing was enormous, bigger than any space station he had ever seen. And as he watched, more of them appeared throughout the system, near Mars, in the asteroid belt, around Jupiter, near Saturn. Dozens of them, all previously invisible. How did they hide from our scans? Vectar asked. I don't know, but they're not hiding anymore. A communication signal reached the fleet. All ships received it simultaneously. The voice was female, human, and surprisingly tired-sounding. Attention Galactic Concord Fleet. This is Commander Sarah Chen, Guardian of Earth. You are trespassing in protected space. I am transmitting coordinates for a safe withdrawal route. I strongly suggest you take it. Korthal activated his own communication system. This is Supreme Admiral Korthal of the Zenthari, commanding the Concord Expeditionary Fleet. We come on behalf of the 12-member species of the Galactic Concord. We demand to know the status of the human species and the nature of your defensive installations. We will not withdraw until we receive answers. There was a pause. Then the human voice responded, and Korthal thought he heard a hint of sadness in it. Admiral, I am the last physical human in the system. I am its appointed guardian. My defensive installations are none of your concern unless you make them your concern. Please withdraw. I don't want to hurt anyone. You are one being commanding automated platforms, Korthal said. The Conquered represents billions of citizens across 12 species. Your threats are meaningless. They're not threats, Admiral. They're warnings. There's a difference. Korthal signaled his tactical officer to cut the communication channel temporarily. Analysis. Can we defeat these platforms? Vectar worked quickly, consulting with other tactical officers across the fleet. Unknown, Admiral. Based on Captain Thelrix's report, their weapons are far beyond our understanding. But we have 200 warships. Even advanced platforms must have limits. Recommendations? We could launch a coordinated strike on the nearest platform. Test its defenses without committing the full fleet. Korthal considered this. It was sound military strategy. Learn the enemy's capabilities before engaging fully. He reopened the communication channel. Commander Chen, we will launch a single probe toward your nearest platform. If you destroy a scientific probe, it will be considered an act of war against the Concord. Admiral, please don't do this. Launch probe, Korthal ordered. A small, unarmed probe detached from the Righteous Fury and moved toward Guardian 1. It transmitted scientific data, showing clearly that it carried no weapons. Korthal watched carefully, wondering if the human would dare to destroy it. Guardian 1 did not respond at all. The probe approached within 1,000 kilometers and began detailed scans. It recorded everything, sending the data back to the fleet. The platform is not reacting, Vectar reported. The probe is completing its scan. Korthal felt a moment of satisfaction. Perhaps the human was bluffing. Perhaps these platforms were old and slow and not as dangerous as claimed. Then the probe simply stopped transmitting. One moment it was sending data, The next moment, silence. Status of probe? Korthal demanded. Gone, Admiral. It's just gone. No explosion, no debris. It ceased to exist, the human voice returned. Your probe came too close. I warned you. It was converted to energy and dissipated. It felt no pain. I'm sorry. Korthal felt his anger rising. You destroyed a scientific instrument. That is an act of aggression, no, Admiral. It was an act of defense. You sent something into my protected space. I removed it. If you send your warships, I will remove them too. Please believe me when I say I don't want to do that. You threaten the conquered fleet? I'm protecting Earth, Admiral. That's all. Just Earth. I don't care about the rest of the galaxy. I don't want to conquer anything. I don't want to threaten anyone. I just want you to leave this planet alone. Korthal made a decision. He had been tasked with assessing the threat. The only way to do that was to test it properly. Battle formation, he ordered. All ships prepare to advance on the structure near Earth. We will see if this Guardian is truly as powerful as she claims. The fleet reorganized, forming a wall of military might. 200 warships representing the combined military power of 12 species. They began to move forward, weapons charging, shields at maximum. Admiral, Sarah Chen's voice had changed. The tiredness was gone, replaced by something cold and hard. I am begging you. Don't make me do this. You are one, Korthal replied. We are many. Stand aside. I really hoped you would be smarter than this. The fleet advanced. Korthal watched the displays, ready for battle. He expected the platforms to fire, expected a massive space battle, expected to see the true measure of human technology. What happened next shocked him to his core. More platforms appeared. Not dozens, hundreds. They had been hiding throughout the entire system, invisible to every scan, waiting. They didn't fire. They didn't need to. They simply revealed themselves, surrounding the conquered fleet completely. Admiral, Bektar's voice was shaking. I count 487 platforms. We're surrounded, but that wasn't all. The asteroid belt suddenly came alive. What Korthal had thought were asteroids were actually ships. Thousands of them. Small automated vessels that moved with impossible precision, forming patterns around the fleet that trapped them completely. 1,000 automated defense ships, Sarah Chen said quietly. 47 visible Guardian platforms, and more that you still can't see. Each Guardian can destroy your entire fleet alone. Together, they could sterilize every planet in the Conquered within a week. Do you understand now, Admiral? I'm not threatening you. I'm showing you why you should leave. Korthal stared at the displays. His tactical officers were silent, overwhelmed by the sheer scale of what they were seeing. This wasn't a defense system. This was military might beyond anything the galaxy possessed. Why? He asked. If humans had this power, why did they leave? Why hide? Because power like this corrupts, Sarah replied. Because we were becoming monsters. Because we had to choose between dominating the galaxy or leaving it alone. We chose to leave. But we couldn't leave Earth undefended, so I stayed. You're one human. I'm enough. A signal came from one of the outlying ships, a Clyth destroyer, part of the insectoid species' contribution to the fleet. It had broken formation and was charging weapons. No, Korthal shouted. Weapons hold. Do not fire! But it was too late. The Clyth ship, terrified and desperate, fired everything it had at the nearest Guardian platform. The platform's shields didn't just stop the weapons. They caught them, held them, and sent them back at double strength. The Clyth destroyer's own weapons destroyed it in an instant. Sarah Chen stood in the docking bay of Guardian 1 and waited for the Zenthari shuttle to arrive. She had not met another living, breathing, thinking being in 17 years. Before that, it had been 19 years. She had almost forgotten what it felt like to stand in a room with someone who could talk back. The shuttle was small and heavily armed, though its weapons wouldn't do anything against the Guardian shields. Sarah watched through the internal cameras as it landed, its engines cycling down with practiced precision. A ramp extended and Supreme Admiral Korthal emerged. He was impressive, Sarah had to admit. The Zenthari were a warrior species, and it showed. Korthal stood nearly 3 meters tall, with scaled skin that shifted between red and gold. His forearms moved with controlled grace, and his eyes, all 6 of them, scanned the docking bay with military efficiency. Behind him came 3 guards and 1 other officer, probably an advisor. They all carried weapons openly. Sarah didn't blame them. She would have done the same. She stepped forward, alone and unarmed. She wore a simple jumpsuit with the old United Earth Defense Force insignia on the shoulder. No weapons, no armor. Just herself and the weight of 300 years of history. "Supreme Admiral Corthal," she said, extending her hand in the human gesture of greeting. "Welcome to Guardian 1. Corthal looked at her hand for a moment, then carefully reached out with one of his forehands and grasped it. His hand was huge, his grip strong but careful. He was being cautious not to hurt her. "Commander Chen," he replied. His voice was deep and carried the growl natural to his species. "Thank you for agreeing to meet." "Thank you for requesting it instead of starting a war," Sarah said. She released his hand and gestured toward a corridor. "Please follow me. I've prepared a meeting room. Your guards are welcome to accompany you, though I promise they're unnecessary." They walked through the Guardian's corridors. Corthal and his people looked around with obvious interest and carefully hidden fear. The Guardian was built on a scale that dwarfed anything the current galaxy used. The corridors were wide enough for 10 humans to walk side by side. The ceiling was 20 meters high. Everything was built with a grandeur that spoke of resources and technology used without concern for cost. "This station is enormous," Corthal observed. "It must have taken decades to build." 18 months, Sarah replied. "When humanity built the Guardians, we were motivated. We had nearly destroyed Earth in the last war. We built these to make sure it could never happen again." "The last war?" "Against ourselves. Human against human. The war that taught us we needed to change or die." She led them into a meeting room that seemed more like a museum. The walls were covered with screens showing images of Earth through history. Ancient forests, early human civilizations, industrial cities, nuclear explosions, ruined battlefields, and finally Earth as it was now, green and alive and free. In the center of the room was a simple table with chairs sized for both humans and larger species. Sarah had replicated them using the Guardian's fabrication systems, adjusting the designs based on scans of the Zenthari shuttle. "Please sit," she offered. "Can I provide refreshments? The fabricators can create food and drink for most species." Corthal sat, his guards positioning themselves by the door. "No, thank you. I prefer to keep this brief. I have questions, Commander Chen. I'll answer what I can. Where are the humans? The real answer, not the cryptic warnings your AI gave us." Sarah sat across from him. She had prepared for this question. She had prepared for all the questions. But preparation didn't make the answers easier to give. "They ascended," she said simply. 302 years ago, humanity achieved a level of technological and philosophical advancement that allowed them to transcend physical existence. They moved beyond matter and energy into states of being we don't have words for. They're still here in a sense, but not in any form you or I can perceive. Corthal's 6 eyes narrowed. "That sounds like fantasy, like religious mythology. I know how it sounds, but it's true. I was there. I watched it happen. 40 billion humans all at once simply stepped out of physical reality. They left behind their bodies, their cities, their technology. Everything except Earth itself. And you didn't go with them?" Sarah smiled sadly. "I was offered the choice. We all were. Some of us chose to stay behind. Someone had to protect Earth while it healed from what we had done to it. Someone had to make sure no other species tried to claim it or strip it of resources. We drew lots. I won. Or lost, depending on how you look at it. Won or lost." Corthal seemed confused. "I get to stay and protect the most beautiful planet in the galaxy," Sarah explained. "But I'm alone. The others who stayed with me. The other caretakers, they've all passed on. Natural causes, mostly. A few chose to end their service early. I'm the last one. I've been the last one for 73 years now." She saw something shift in Corthal's expression. Understanding, perhaps, or pity. She didn't want either. "Why not let Earth take care of itself?" he asked. "Why stay?" "Because it's home," Sarah said simply. "Look." She activated the display screens, showing live feeds from Earth's surface. Elephants in what used to be London. Dolphins in the flooded ruins of Venice. Forests growing through the streets of Tokyo. Wolves howling in the Rocky Mountains. Birds nesting in the remains of the Eiffel Tower. "This is what Earth became when we left it alone," Sarah continued. "This is what it always wanted to be. A garden, a paradise, the birthplace of humanity. We nearly killed it with our wars and our greed and our inability to think beyond our own needs. When we finally learned wisdom, when we finally understood what we had done, we made a choice. We would leave. But we would leave someone to guard what we had nearly destroyed. Corthal studied the images. It is beautiful, he admitted. It's everything, Sarah said quietly. It's the reason I wake up every 17 years or so, check the systems, handle whatever problems have arisen, and go back to sleep. It's the reason I've lived for 334 years. It's the reason I'll keep living until either the Guardians fail or humanity returns or I finally make a mistake and die. That sounds lonely. It is, but it's also an honor. I get to protect something worth protecting. How many beings can say that? Corthal was quiet for a moment. Then he asked the question Sarah had been waiting for. What happens if we don't leave? If the Conquered decides Earth is too valuable to ignore? If we decide your technology is too dangerous to leave in the hands of one person? Sarah had thought about this question for 3 centuries. She had considered every possible answer. In the end, there was only one truth she could speak. Then I would fight you, she said, and I would win. Not because I want to. Not because I hate you or fear you or wish you harm, but because I made a promise. I promised to protect Earth. I will keep that promise even if it means destroying every ship you send. Even if it means your entire Conquered declares war on Sol. Even if it means I have to become the monster humanity was trying not to be. You would commit genocide to protect one planet? I would do what I had to do. But Admiral, it wouldn't be genocide. It would be self-defense. You would be the ones attacking. I would be the one responding. There's a difference. Corthal stood and walked to the windows. They showed Earth hanging in space, blue and green and achingly beautiful. He stared at it for a long time. I have led fleets in 6 wars, he said finally. I have seen planets burned. I have ordered the deaths of millions of enemy combatants. I am not a peaceful being, Commander Chen. My species does not value mercy the way we value strength. I know, Sarah said. I read about the Zenthari before you arrived. You're warriors. You respect power. Yes. And that is why I must tell you something. Corthal turned to face her. There is a faction within the Conquered that does not trust you. The Clith, you saw one of their ships fire on your Guardian. That was not an accident. That was not fear. That was a test. A test of what? Of your restraint. They wanted to see if you would annihilate the entire fleet in response to one ship's actions. You didn't. You only destroyed the ship that attacked. That tells them something important. What does it tell them? That you value proportional response. That you show mercy when possible. That you are in your own way civilized. Corthal's expression was grim. They see that as weakness. And they are building a weapon. A planet killer. They have been building it for years, ever since we first lost contact with Sol. They believe humanity will return someday and threaten the galaxy. They intend to destroy Earth before that happens. Sarah felt ice form in her stomach. When? I don't know. I only learned of this recently. But I suspect it's nearly ready. Perhaps days. Perhaps weeks. Why are you telling me this? Because I don't want to see this planet destroyed, Corthal said. I came here expecting to find a threat. Instead, I found a Guardian doing exactly what she promised to do. I respect that. I respect you. And I will not be part of genocide, even if my superiors order it. Sarah stood and walked to stand beside him at the window. They both looked at Earth together, 2 warriors from different species, both understanding the weight of protecting something precious. If they attack, Sarah said quietly, I'll have to stop them, and stopping a planet-killer weapon might mean going beyond Sol's boundaries. It might mean taking the fight to them. I know. 14 minutes, Sarah's mind calculated possibilities at superhuman speed. The planet-killer was coming in fast, far faster than anything should be able to move through space. The Clith had obviously been planning this for a long time. They had positioned their weapon carefully, waiting for the right moment. How did they hide it from my sensors? Sarah demanded of the AI. Unknown. The technology is not familiar. It appears to use quantum stealth principles not previously encountered. Corthal was shouting into his communication device, calling his fleet. Weapon status. I want targeting solutions on that weapon immediately. Sarah was already moving, running toward the command center with the Admiral following. Your weapons won't work, Admiral. If that thing uses the technology I think it does, conventional weapons will pass right through it. Then what do we do? I don't know yet. Give me a minute to think. They burst into the command center. The main display showed the weapon clearly now. It was enormous, easily the size of a moon. It had appeared as if from nowhere, its stealth systems dropping as it began its final approach. Energy readings were off the scale. This thing could crack a planet in half. 13 minutes to impact, the AI announced calmly. Sarah pulled up tactical displays, her enhanced mind processing dozens of scenarios simultaneously. She could use the Guardians to intercept, but if the weapon was using quantum stealth, it might just phase through their shields. She could use the automated fleet, but thousands of small ships wouldn't stop something that massive. She could try to evacuate, but where would she go? Earth was her home, her responsibility, her promise. There has to be a way, she muttered. Korthal was coordinating with his fleet. They were moving to intercept, but Sarah could see it was futile. They would be too slow, too weak, too late. 12 minutes, the AI said. Sarah closed her eyes. Think. What would humanity do? What would the Ascended do if they could still act? They were beings of pure thought now, of pure understanding. They had moved beyond violence. But they had left behind their weapons for a reason. They had left her behind for a reason. Show me Earth's old military archives, she ordered. Specifically Project Indomitable, Commander. The AI sounded uncertain. That project was classified. It was deemed too dangerous even during the last war. Show me! The files appeared on her screen. Sarah read quickly, her heart pounding. Project Indomitable. The last weapon humanity had designed before they ascended. The one they had built but never used. The one they had sworn to never activate unless there was no other choice. It was a ship. Just one ship, but it had been built using principles of physics that shouldn't exist. It could manipulate fundamental forces in ways that violated several laws of thermodynamics. And most importantly, it could interact with quantum phase matter. Where is it? Sarah demanded. In storage. Lunar Facility Alpha 7. But Commander, the ship requires a crew of 50, and the power requirements are immense. We would need to drain every Guardian platform in the system to charge its systems. 11 minutes, the AI announced. How long to activate it? Sarah asked. 8 minutes minimum. Sarah looked at Korthal. I need your help. What can I do? I need power, lots of it. Can your fleet transfer energy to coordinates I provide? Yes, but our power generation is nothing compared to what you already have. It's not about quantity. It's about variety. The ship I'm going to use needs input from multiple different energy types to stabilize its core. Humans, Anthari, Vryn, Clith, all different. Can you coordinate that? Korthal didn't hesitate. Give me the coordinates. Sarah transmitted the location of the lunar facility. AI, begin activation sequence for the Indomitable. Transfer all available Guardian power to its charging systems. Coordinate with the Concord fleet for supplemental energy. Acknowledged. But Commander, who will pilot it? The control system requires human neural patterns. I will. You cannot. You're here on Guardian 1. The ship is on the moon. You cannot reach it in time. 10 minutes. The AI said. Sarah smiled grimly. I don't need to reach it physically. Connect me to the ship's neural interface. I'll pilot it remotely. That's impossible. The quantum communication lag alone would make precision control impractical. Nothing's impossible, just improbable. Do it. The AI hesitated for exactly 0.3 seconds, which for an advanced AI was the equivalent of deep consideration. Then it complied, establishing neural link. This will hurt. It did hurt. Sarah gasped as the connection formed, her consciousness suddenly existing in two places at once. Part of her remained in the Guardian command center. Part of her was now connected to the Indomitable, feeling its systems wake up after 3 centuries of sleep. The ship was beautiful, sleek and deadly, and built with the kind of desperate brilliance that only comes from facing extinction. Humanity had poured everything they knew into this vessel. It was their final statement, their last resort, their ultimate weapon, and Sarah was going to use it to save. Not destroy. 9 minutes, the AI announced. Power transfer at 40%, Korthal reported. The fleet is coordinating. We're giving you everything we have. Sarah could feel the energy flowing into the Indomitable. Through her neural link, she became aware of every system, every weapon, every capability. The ship had something called a matter transmutation cannon. It could restructure atomic bonds, changing one element into another. That's what she needed. 8 minutes. Power at 70%. That's enough, Sarah said. Launching. The Indomitable tore free from its lunar dock, accelerating at speeds that would kill any unprotected organic crew. Sarah didn't feel it. She was pure consciousness in the ship's systems, her body safe in the Guardian while her mind rode the most advanced weapon humanity had ever built. She plotted an intercept course, The planet killer was still approaching Earth, its quantum shielding making it partially intangible. Impossible to stop with conventional weapons, but the Indomitable wasn't conventional. 7 minutes, Sarah pushed the ship faster. Space blurred around her. The conquered fleet watched in amazement as the human ship moved at velocities that shouldn't be possible. 6 minutes. She was close now, close enough to see the planet killer clearly. It was ugly, built purely for function with no grace or artistry. Just a massive weapon designed to kill a world. Sarah felt anger rise in her chest. How dare they? How dare they threaten her planet? Her home, her responsibility. But anger wouldn't help. She needed precision, control. She needed to be better than what humanity had been. 5 minutes. Sarah engaged the matter transmutation cannon. It charged up, drawing power from the ship's core, from the Guardians, from the conquered fleet. She could feel Korthal and his people watching, hoping, praying in their own ways. 4 minutes. She fired. The beam from the Indomitable wasn't destructive. It didn't explode the planet killer or vaporize it. Instead, it touched the weapon's quantum shield and began to change it. At the atomic level, the shield's exotic matter started transmuting into normal matter. The quantum phase effect collapsed. The planet killer became fully real again, fully vulnerable. 3 minutes. Now she switched to the ship's second weapon system, the gravitational manipulator. She had seen Guardian 7 use something similar on an asteroid. This was more refined, more powerful, more precise. Sarah grabbed the planet killer with invisible hands of gravity and began to slow it down. The weapon fought back, its engines trying to maintain course. It was a battle of forces, of will, of technology against technology. 2 minutes, the planet killer was slowing, but not fast enough. It would still hit Earth, would still destroy everything. Sarah pushed harder, pulling on the weapon with all the power she could channel through the Indomitable. 1 minute. Commander, the AI said quietly. At this rate, you cannot stop it in time, Sarah knew. She had known from the moment she saw the weapon. It was too close, too fast, too powerful. She couldn't stop it, but she could change it. Redirecting all power to matter transmutation cannon, she ordered. Continuous beam. Maximum output. Commander, that will destroy the Indomitable. The systems cannot handle that much energy. I know. Do it anyway. The beam fired again, brighter and stronger than before. It touched the planet killer and began transforming its core. The weapon's power source, its explosive heart, started changing. From dense matter to energy to something else. Something harmless. 30 seconds. Sarah pushed harder, feeling the Indomitable beginning to tear itself apart under the strain. Her neural connection carried phantom pain as the ship's systems overloaded. But she didn't stop. Couldn't stop. 20 seconds. The planet killer's core was almost completely transmuted, almost, just a little more. 10 seconds. Come on, Sarah whispered. Come on. 5 seconds, the transmutation completed. The planet killer's core was now nothing but inert gas, still massive, still moving, but no longer capable of destroying a planet. The weapon sailed past Earth at a safe distance, now just a very large piece of metal and ceramic, dead and harmless. It would drift into deep space, a monument to failed genocide. Sarah released her connection to the Indomitable. The ship, drained of all power and damaged beyond repair, drifted silently in space. It had served its purpose. One last mission after 3 centuries of waiting. Back in Guardian 1's command center, Sarah's body slumped in her chair. Korthal caught her before she fell.